On the 27th of August 2011 in the American Northwest, 3 unidentified flying objects were captured on film. These strange objects were seen over Moscow in September of 2011. And such incidents are not isolated. Every year there are thousands of reports of sightings of strange flying objects like these. But UFO sightings are not a modern phenomenon. For millennia, people have been intrigued by strange flying craft. And for many people, these craft are a sure indication of extraterrestrial life visiting this planet on a regular basis. But it's not only the idea of alien life forms that intrigues people. Many find UFOs so fascinating because they believe these strange craft and their mysterious occupants also hold clues to the genesis of religion on Earth. For them, UFOs, aliens, and religion are intrinsically linked.
We are not the only inhabitants of the universe.
There's something else out there that is greater than us.
There's nothing to say that there can't be other physical worlds as well.
Our life on Earth has been guided by the angels or the aliens for centuries.
We are all aliens ourselves.
In 1947, this man, Kenneth Arnold, was flying his small plane near Mount Rainier in the USA. Suddenly, he saw 9 objects, glowing bright blue-white, flying in a V formation. He reported this and it led to a media frenzy. He estimated the objects' flight speed at nearly 3,000 kilometers per hour. He compared their motion to what he called a saucer if you skip it across water. He was misquoted and newspapers reported that he had seen flying saucers. It quickly became the popular term for an unidentified flying object. Nobody could explain what he saw. The US Air Force dismissed it as a mirage. Nevertheless, his story made headlines around the world, and all of a sudden more and more people came forward, saying they had also seen strange objects in the sky. Later that same year, another strange incident took place near Roswell, New Mexico. There was some kind of crash, and soon the story spread that it was a spacecraft with aliens on board that crashed there. After first admitting it, the military then denied it. However, to this day, many people believe that it was an alien craft that crashed there. For them, it was proof that aliens from outer space were indeed visiting us here on Earth. And since then, UFOs and alien sightings have become some of the most intensely studied phenomena in the world. Barbara DeLong, a radio talk show host in the US, says she saw one many years ago when she was a university student.
We were listening to the news and we heard on the news that a UFO had been spotted over the campus of Eastern Michigan University, which is where I went. And so we all were, racing to the windows. We didn't really see anything, but we saw police cars rushing by, and it was state troopers, and it was military police, and it was amazing the amount of cars that were piling onto the campus, and it was fascinating. We heard them saying that the traffic to all the airports in the area had been closed down because of the UFO, and they said, we're going to turn the stadium lights on to get a better look at it. And they did. And when the lights went on, you could see the glow in the sky, and then suddenly you saw this huge object rise up and swoop over the door, and it blacked out the sky. Couldn't see the sky. And I jokingly say to people, if it had a VIN number, I could have read it.
And there have been countless reports of sightings over the years. Sometimes thousands of people describe the same phenomenon. And in March 1997, more than 10,000 people reported a sighting over Phoenix, Arizona.
They're lined up in a pattern, man. There's geometry behind this.
I can't even get I've never seen it. Look at that.
Man, this is...
And in July 2010, an airport in China had to be shut down because of reported UFO activity above it. And fairly reliable observers like airline pilots and even astronauts have also reported strange flying objects and unearthly visitors. This footage comes directly from a NASA broadcast from the lunar surface, where the astronauts talk about alien visitors.
It's all up here. There we go. Well, let's see. We've had visitors again. Yeah. Hardly worth mentioning. Agree.
And this sighting was recorded over Jerusalem in 2010. Sightings also occur frequently in South Africa, says Christo Low of the South African UFO resource.
There are more and more UFO sightings in South Africa now, and these things are actually seen more in the day than they're seen at night, statistically speaking.
Christo has found it necessary to create a website where people can report sightings and where those who believe in UFOs can exchange ideas. He's convinced that we are being visited by a host of extraterrestrial beings.
We are definitely not alone in the universe, no. And I do consider the possibility that there could be multiple universes. We are being visited from beings not from this planet, from many different locations, for many different reasons. And I find that it's not only a situation of extraterrestrials, there's a whole multitude of a variety of different beings that populate this universe, or this multiverse, I would even go as far to say.
For many decades, people who held views like this were considered to be part of the lunatic fringe, but things have changed somewhat in recent years. New discoveries by the Hubble telescope and NASA have shown that there are literally millions of planets in our galaxy alone that could support life. The idea that there is life elsewhere in the universe is nowadays much more accepted. South African UFO researcher Wayne Herschel also believes that we are not alone in the universe, and he says evidence of this has been around for millennia in cultures all around the world.
In fact, everywhere. There's no sort of only one part of the world. It's every single continent. It's the Incas, the Mayas, the Aztecs, Olmecs, the American Indians, Eastern tradition, the Hindus. Even the Aboriginals have got a story associated with the same kind of thing. So the whole of every single civilization.
Since time immemorial, humans have depicted strange flying vehicles and strange beings visiting this planet, and in the modern era, this has continued. There are countless reports of UFO sightings, and interestingly enough, it seems that in many cases, the ancient reports and engravings have religious connotations. The first person in recent history who really started a debate about links between so-called ancient astronauts and religion was Erich von Däniken. He's a Swiss author, best known for his controversial claims that religion is not the result of humankind's interaction with God or gods. According to him, religion is the result of humanity's contact with visiting astronauts from outer space. Worship of these ancient space aliens created religion on Earth. Over the years, many of von Däniken's theories have been challenged, and he's even been accused of fraud. But his influence has been immense, and he sold more than 60 million books worldwide. Over the years, many UFO researchers have followed von Däniken's lead and have continued to identify a staggering number of images and references to strange heavenly beings in cultures and religions all over the globe.
The whole of every single civilization has the same connection to visitors that came from the sky. And whether we like it or not, the word for visitors that are not of human form are aliens. But it's global. The whole original translation of these earliest texts all have the secrets about the gods that came from the stars.
For example, in ancient Peru, the Incas engraved huge figures on the desert, which they visited during religious ceremonies and festivals. No adequate explanations for these huge carvings that dot the desert have been found. Some say the images have a purely religious meaning, and others believe they point to landing sites for alien craft. In ancient Mayan religion and culture, there are also numerous strange depictions of beings that seem to be dressed in some kind of suit or flying in a craft. This image is from Copan, and the person is sitting very much in the position modern-day astronauts assume for launching. And these objects that look very much like airplanes have been found in India. They're ancient, but they've been shown to be aerodynamically sound, and models based on these designs have actually flown. The famous Mayan calendar is also so accurate that many believe it would have been impossible for a primitive civilization to construct something so sophisticated without outside help. There's also ample evidence from ancient China that strange flying objects have been observed by a variety of people. The Chinese Emperor Shun, who lived nearly 5,000 years ago, is depicted in an ancient manuscript as riding in a flying chariot of fire. And there are many inexplicable images in Egyptian hieroglyphs, like this strange craft. But in Egypt, there are much more than just inscriptions. There are also huge structures and dozens of large and small pyramids. Some say that these structures could not have been built by ancient Egyptians without the help of extremely advanced technology. This has led South African researcher Wayne Herschel to explore the possibility that human life itself is of alien origin. He believes that humans were actually brought to Earth by an alien race from a faraway planet, and the clues to this are to be found in Egypt's large structures, he says. The structures were not built for the benefit of humankind, but they are aligned to create massive star maps which are visible from space. And these huge star maps are designed to give visitors from outer space information about the real origins of the inhabitants of this planet.
The most amazing thing with these ancient star maps is most of them are built on a grand scale. They've used their monuments on the ground to match the sky. There's an old tradition, as above, so below.
The structures on Earth match the configuration of a number of stars in the Orion star sign exactly.
They're showing one area in the sky that's more important than the rest.
For Wayne, this area of the sky that is more important than the rest is a pointer to where humans actually come from. It's the 7 stars of the Pleiades that point to a specific solar system, which is the actual origin of humankind.
So it's in the way it's laid out in its position. They are fitting by size, by layout, pattern match, and the sizes of the pyramids matching the sizes or the brightness of the stars. And it's in correlation with all other stars to show where to find where we come from.
Christo Lowe agrees with Wayne that humans did not originate on this planet.
For me, it makes a lot of sense, all things considered, that we are all aliens ourselves.
So, the star maps on Earth then serve as an indication to other space travelers that those who inhabit planet Earth actually originated elsewhere in the universe.
So with the right telescopes, super advanced cultures can look in and see us and know who we are. Look at the star pattern. That seems to be a tradition of star travelers. They leave it building pyramids. That could be the whole meaning of pyramids. Let's show the pattern of where we come from, who's founding a world in a solar system. That message is going towards the cosmos. It's showing who we are and where we come from. So it's not something that's been left for us as humanity. It's something that is readable when you look down at us.
And according to Wayne, all over the Earth there are similar huge structures with exactly the same pattern that give the same information. The pyramids of the Mayans have the same layout and configuration as the pyramids in Egypt, and even Stonehenge in Britain fits the pattern.
Nobody has ever been able to bridge how Stonehenge fits in with these pyramid civilizations. They didn't build pyramids, so we think. But the truth is they did. They built them conically, round-shaped, and they called them barrows in the UK. But they built the Stonehenge monument in between the barrows. And the Stonehenge monument itself has all these lintels holding a definite pattern when you look at it from above. But look at the whole thing in context with these mounds, which are like pyramids, barrows. The same star map is exactly there, and Stonehenge is the X that marks the spot.
And the spot is the planet where humans actually come from. Wayne also believes that exactly the same patterns are mirrored in huge structures on Mars. For him, the famous face on Mars is not a natural phenomenon, but he says that it's a star map created by the same race of aliens who brought humans to Earth.
Not only is it like the ones on Earth, it is far bigger. It is far more accurate, and it's got more detail. And it's absolutely mind-blowing to see how perfectly positioned it is, to see the geometry aspects of it, and the human face.
Wayne found another face like the one on Mars here on Earth. He says there's even a reference to this in the Bible.
Looking deeper and deeper in the story of Jacob founding Israel, he speaks of an area called Peniel, where there's this face of God, the place of the face of God. And this was a holy place to Jacob, and they mentioned it was near a town called Succoth, and it was on the east bank of the Jordan. So all he had to do was go into Google Earth, look at the east bank of Jordan, look where Succoth was, and knowing where it was, and just using those two coordinates and zooming in, lo and behold, there's an ancient historical archaeological mound. And the mound has been recognized as being a Bronze Age, early sacred heap.
This sacred place has features just like the face on Mars. For Wayne, this is an indication that the same highly developed civilization brought humans both to Mars and to Earth. A cataclysmic event eradicated all life on Mars. A similar cataclysm reduced the advanced civilization on Earth overnight back to the Stone Age.
And I think people devolved in one generation back to hunters and gatherers from being advanced.
He says this happened in the absence of the alien race who planted humans on Earth.
But when they came back again, many generations later, what were they? Gods.
And when the now primitive humans made contact with these visitors, which they called gods, they made drawings and engravings of them. And we find these artifacts all over the world. So both von Daniken and Wayne say that humans venerated ancient astronauts as gods, and that is the way religion developed. In both these models, there's very little room for the existence of God. However, there is also another brand of researchers who firmly believe in the existence of UFOs and alien visitations, but who also leave room for the existence and personal involvement of God here on Earth. A number of researchers have claimed, based on ancient images and sacred texts, that Earth has been visited by aliens in spacecraft since time immemorial. They also believe that these visitations continue. They claim that in the past, when humans have met these aliens, they venerated them as gods, and that this is the origin of religion on Earth. But what do the major religions in the world say about the link between religion and alien beings and strange flying craft? Of all the world's major religions, Hinduism speaks most overtly about the existence of life elsewhere in the universe. Dr. Raj Kolapan is from Laudium, just outside Pretoria.
From time immemorial, Hindus have believed that there is life out there, there is beings that are probably more intelligent than we are. And our arrogance actually makes us believe that we are the highest of this pyramid of creation. Whereas great structures in the world, for example, the pyramids and many other structures, show that there were highly intelligent beings that built these wonderful structures. We are still, with the finest technology, trying to fathom that. So alien life, alien intelligence is something that is well known to Hindu thought.
And in Hindu tradition, the existence of space flight is not strange.
In the ancient Vedas, which is the oldest, dates back to roughly about 6,000 BC. In there is knowledge of interplanetary movement, interplanetary travel of great types of vehicles called vimanas. There are many, many types of spaceships that is described in the Vedas. So in these books, the Vedas, the Mahabharata, the Ramayana, the Puranas, there is an innumerable descriptions of space-like structures that have been seen, identified as UFOs throughout the world, described as sausage-shaped, cylindrical, flying saucer-shaped, some with a double-story type of effect, domes, portholes. All these things have been described in this book.
Hinduism also refers to parallel universes, time travel, and life on other planets. So the concept of aliens and UFOs is not a foreign concept in this tradition at all. In general, in Islam, Judaism, and in Christianity, the Bible and the Quran are not interpreted as referring to any alien beings or craft. The traditional and accepted interpretation is that humankind functions under God and that they are spiritual intermediaries between God and humans in the form of a number of beings with non-human abilities. In Islam, angels and jinn are mentioned as examples of such beings. Angels are positive beings and jinn are negative, says Mulana Yusuf Abed of Pretoria.
Angels are created out of light. Jinn are created out of smokeless flame. You know, a flame of smokeless fire, basically. So yes, there are other creations out there.
In both Judaism and Christianity, there is a belief in angels. They appear to humans as messengers and act on behalf of God to fulfill specific tasks. Could these beings perhaps be described as aliens? Rabbi Schisler of Johannesburg says he would have no problems in describing angels as aliens.
You know, I think the place to start is when we talk about, is there life out there? And I like the expression out there more than on other planets. When you say out there, immediately you include the possibility that there are other life forms that are not necessarily physical life forms. Not only are they not necessarily human life forms, they're not necessarily physical life forms. So, for example, if you had to talk about an angel, a classical angel, it again becomes a matter of vocabulary, because in a religious doctrine you'd call it an angel. But let's say you happen to be a ufologist, you could easily say an alien. And they wouldn't be mutually exclusive descriptions, because an alien would mean not of this world, and an angel is not of this world.
And Barry Downing, a Presbyterian minister in the USA, also believes that angels and aliens are closely aligned. He published a bestseller on the subject called The Bible and Flying Saucers 4 decades ago. The book is still in print today.
As I got thinking about time and space issues, and suppose that the angels in the Bible really were beings that came from another world. That's not that impossible. How would the Bible read if you looked at it that way? So then I started studying the angels in the Bible and found that they sometimes connected to strange objects in the sky, like the pillar of cloud and fire of the Exodus, or the chariots of fire of Elijah, or the wheels of Ezekiel, or the bright cloud over Jesus at his transfiguration mentioned in Matthew 17.
When Barry started to look at the Bible and the role of angels in this way, it seemed quite feasible that aliens and angels could be one and the same.
Well, I think the angels are beings created by God, at least in the same sense that we are. I suspect that the angels have been involved in the guidance of the development of life on Earth. So in that sense, Van Daniken might be right in saying that the aliens have been involved in the biological development of our life on Earth. But from my point of view, they're doing it as an act of God or an act for God, and that God has assigned them this task. Can I prove this? No, but that's my faith position right now.
So Barry is convinced that we are regularly being visited by aliens in UFOs acting on behalf of God. As a man of the cloth, he firmly believes that the many sightings all over the world are in fact genuine and angelic. He finds it a pity that in modern theological thought, there is no more room allowed for continued action by angels in this world.
My view is that we in theology have underused the aliens, okay, or the angels, whichever way you want to call it. That especially in Protestantism, which I'm part of, we've had God and Jesus and that's it. As far as giving the angels something real to do, we've tended not to do it. My religious views really are quite biblical. We do assume the angels will have something to do with the second coming of Jesus. And the scriptures in the New Testament testify that the Son of Man will return with his angels in the day of judgment. So we're fine having the angels show up at the end time, but we're not very fine with having them being busy now. It's like they're unemployed until the second coming, all right?
Barry says this view has closed people's eyes to the possibility that the many sightings of aliens and alien craft are the presence and activity of angels in a modern world. He says it's a pity that there's this lack of linking the two, because many of the characteristics of angels and aliens are very similar. They seem to come from another dimension. In the Bible, both the angels and Jesus after his resurrection can suddenly appear and disappear.
And that UFOs too may come from another dimension, because one of the things that UFO reporters have noticed is that UFOs sometimes don't just fly away, they blink out, or they just disappear from in front of people's eyes. UFO researcher Richard Dolan has made note of the fact that UFOs don't just fly away sometimes, they just seem to disappear from in front of your eyes as if they change dimensions. So the multi-dimensional idea is not just something that it seems to be appropriate for the angels, it seems to be appropriate for a lot of modern UFO sightings.
Similarly, in the Quran, angels and jinn also have peculiar abilities which many ufologists ascribe to aliens and alien craft. They can also suddenly appear and disappear and descend from the sky.
Jinn and angels, both of them can ascend into the sky and come into the earth at rapid pace, very quickly. And angels have the capacity to take on a human form. Jinn also. In fact, numerous angels had come down through history. Firstly, the angel Jibril, the Arabic name, in English is Gabriel. Extensive mention is made about him. And he also came down into this earth in the shape of a human being. Similarly, when the Lord sent angels to the prophet Abraham, he sent angels in human form. So yeah, angels have the capacity of coming down, jinn as well.
But what about the belief in extraterrestrials and UFOs in traditional African belief systems? Dr. Matole Macheka specializes in early African cosmology.
In African cosmology, the life on Earth comes from the heavens. So the human being is seen as a microcosmic image of a macrocosmic God. And the human soul is seen as having descended, derived from the God and descended into the human body, which is seen as the tomb or prison of the soul. The life here comes from higher on. And that's why, this a messenger of the God says, as above, so below. That what we have here is a reflection of what is above. The only difference is that in the heavens, life is in a spiritual form. Here, life is in a material form. There are more than one universe. So our solar system is not the only solar system. There are other solar systems. So what the scientists are doing are trying to verify something that is already known. But all their problem is that they verify that from the standpoint of matter. But the life in those other places, it's spiritual. So there is life throughout the universe on different planets. We just happen to have been planted on this earth, but there's life elsewhere.
So also in African traditional religion, the possibility of alien life is accepted. In Judaism, Islam and Christianity, it's also accepted that alien life, referring to non-human forms of life, could exist. These life forms are then taken to be angels or spiritual beings or jinn. They sometimes come down from the sky and sometimes rapidly appear and disappear, just like modern UFOs do. There's a growing number of people that believe that UFOs and angels could be one and the same. There are many descriptions of flying craft and strangely suited beings in almost all cultures and traditions. It's also present in many major religious texts. Of late, especially in Christianity, there's been a surge in theories where alien activity is seen as the root of many biblical events and narratives. Barry Downing believes that the angels or aliens have been very much active throughout history and that many of the events in the Bible are what is now called close encounters of the third kind.
I believe that a UFO parted the Red Sea and used some type of anti-gravitational power to do it.
Patrick Cook, a well-known ufologist, author and radio talk show host, also believes that aliens were involved in the Exodus.
The Exodus is what I believe to be the longest and largest close encounter ever recorded. We know there were at least 1 million, perhaps up to 2 million and 3 million people in the Exodus. And for 40 years, this pillar hung over them. It was a pillar of fire at night and a pillar of a cloud during the day.
Patrick believes this was an alien craft that accompanied the Israelites for 40 years in the desert.
And this strange craft was with them. It dropped manna every day on them. It fed them. The amount of food and water alone that would be required, this thing was supplying all the needs of those people. The Exodus is a fascinating story. But that's only one of the close encounters.
The description of another close encounter Patrick believes is to be found in 1 Kings. There, Elijah is in conflict with some false prophets when the following strange thing happens. The Bible says, "Immediately the fire of the Lord flashed down from heaven and burned up the young bull, the wood, the stones, and the dust. It even licked up all the water in the trench." Some ufologists interpret this as some ray or laser beam that flashed down and assisted Elijah. There are also numerous other close encounters and descriptions of angels and humans traveling in strange flying craft, sometimes called chariots of fire. It happened to the prophet Elijah. And in the book of Ezekiel, the prophet has a remarkable vision. He sees an immense cloud with flashing lightning and surrounded by brilliant light. The center of the fire looked like glowing metal, and I saw wheels on the ground. Each appeared to be made like a wheel intersecting a wheel. Many people have commented on how similar Ezekiel's description is to what is reported in connection with modern UFO sightings. Christo Lowe once saw a UFO, and this is his description.
The most significant sighting that I have had happened in October 2009 on the beach. And I saw what looked to me like a little cloud. It was brighter in the middle and it faded out towards the end. And that bright light in the middle, dissolving into smaller lights, rotating, dissolving into the rings, process, repeated. And that we watched for about 10 minutes. And thousands of people all around South Africa saw that, and even in some other countries as well.
Patrick is convinced that in the book of Ezekiel, a UFO encounter is described.
Now this is where it says that Ezekiel was with the exiles at the river Chebar, and out of the north came a great whirlwind, a fire enfolding itself, and out of the middle of this fire was the color of amber. And amber comes from a Hebrew word that means bright, polished spectrum metal. Literally, he's saying, I saw a metallic color of this thing, and it landed right in front of him. And we see that strange things come out of this firmament. And there are lights running up and down it. They're running all around it. There's things that appear like wheels within wheels. There are wings, what appear to be wings. And what most engineers that have studied Ezekiel believe we're talking about is that Ezekiel spent his entire time describing the landing gear of, apparently, because he said after the end of all the descriptions that he makes, he said, there was a firmament above all these, and that's where God was, and he spoke to me from that firmament.
believes that an alien was even present at Jesus' resurrection.
They go into the tomb where Jesus lay and found that he was not there. They said they found a young man or a youth, basically is what it meant. It basically meant a small man inside.
A small being with shining clothes. A small alien. An angel. In the New Testament, angels are frequently described as having shining clothes. And after his resurrection, the Bible describes Jesus as having the ability to suddenly appear and disappear.
The disciples are reported to be gathered in a room with the door shut, and Jesus suddenly appears in their midst. He materializes. It's as if he were in the room all along and suddenly appears.
For both Patrick and Barry, there's no uncertainty. The many descriptions of angels in the Bible and other religious texts are actually descriptions of aliens at work in antiquity. And they believe that the same angels are still active today. The many UFO and alien sightings like this one in the Amazon forest a few months ago are ample proof of this for them. But it's a totally different matter when one comes to governments and their official stance on UFOs. Many believe there's a serious cover-up about alien contact and UFOs.
Cover-ups are not new. When Jesus was raised from the dead, the government leaders said to the soldiers, spread the story the disciples came by night and stole his body, and we'll cover for you, okay? So government's been doing cover-up for inconvenient information for a long time.
Patrick agrees that this has been going on for a long time, dating back to the incident in Roswell in 1947. At first, the government admitted the incident and then denied it.
But what happened was they had to do what I call cover up on the fly. They didn't have a policy. They didn't have a policy about how to deal with UFOs. Now they've got it. They've got policies. We've got their manuals. We know what they tell you to do. You just don't mention it. And that's what it is. They keep complete silence.
But why would governments keep silent about alien visitors? Some find religious reasons for this.
I believe they're there. I believe the government is covering up their existence because the government is afraid what will happen culturally if they let this information loose. If the government were in a position where they'd have to announce this kind of thing, it would be a huge trial for certainly for the biblical religions. Might not fly that well with other world religions either. So I think the government has good reasons to be afraid about letting the information out.
What happens with the church? If we admit there are UFOs flying around here, how are you going to put a UFO between man and his God? Well, I think that it is his God. But the church will not allow that. Science will not allow it, because what has science been doing all these years? Debunking it. They're going to look real stupid when they come back. And what happens to evolution when this comes? Evolution goes flying out the window with this.
So there are economic issues in the cover-up, military issues, big time. The assumption is if they have a crashed UFO, they're trying to copy the technology. And the thing you'd want to do would be to copy it so that you got it and everybody else doesn't have it. You know, we're in the game of beating those guys. And so if we're going to be number one, the best way to do it is to keep our UFO secret.
In August 2010, some indication that governments indeed covered up UFO sightings came when the British Ministry of Defence released formally classified UFO files. Among these files is a report that Churchill ordered a 50-year embargo on a UFO sighting by an RAF bomber during the Second World War. Churchill is reported to have exclaimed to Eisenhower, "This event should be immediately classified since it would create mass panic amongst the general population and destroy one's belief in the church." The report of this particular sighting has been withheld from the public for more than 50 years. Many people believe that UFOs do exist and that we are constantly being visited from outer space by alien beings. They also claim that governments the world over are involved in a massive cover-up, refusing to divulge what's really going on. One of the reasons for this alleged cover-up is the possible effect of what revealing this would do to religions. But is it a real threat? Modern science has already shown that it's quite possible that millions of planets exist that could sustain life. Would religions be threatened if one day it's proven that UFOs do indeed exist?
The question rather should be, is there any reference to other life out there? And we find in the Quran that the opening verses of the first chapter in the Quran, the Almighty speaks about all praises and thanks are due to the Lord, who is the Lord of Alameen. The word Alameen is used, and the word Alameen normally is explained as humans, jinn, and everything that exists. So from this, the inference is that there is definitely life out there, and by inference that would imply, and I'm not saying this ayat says that, but the implication is, if there is life out there, then yes, the possibility of flying saucers and those things do exist. It is very possible, albeit there isn't direct reference to any flying machines in the Quran.
Rabbi Schussler agrees that if aliens were to exist, it's no threat to religion.
We're only now starting to identify planets that are similar in their characteristics to our own planet. But we know nothing. We really know nothing. We have to see God as being powerful, talented, and diverse enough to have created much more out there than just us. And it's actually a little bit of a smug, sort of, arrogant attitude to say, it's us and that's it. Everything else is barren out there.
Barry Downing says that although the existence of UFOs is not a threat to religion, people find it hard to reconcile it with traditional interpretations.
I can accept the fact that it's very hard to make this kind of transition. But as I said, I think the main issue is people have had to fight in our scientific culture to keep believing the biblical message. I mean, how do you keep believing in the resurrection of Jesus in our time, really? Or how do you keep believing in the parting of the Red Sea? And so you kind of hold on, you grit your teeth and say, I don't know how this can be true, but I'm going to believe it, And then Downing comes along and says, well, it actually might have been a high-tech thing, the part of the Red Sea. I don't want to hear it. It's supernatural. Leave me alone. It's hard enough believing in the supernatural. Don't make me believe in aliens, too. So I think there's that kind of resistance, and it's pretty deep. And people don't give up, change their faith issues easily.
But for Hindus, finding out that UFOs really exist would be no problem at all.
If I were heard there was life existed in another planet or on another planet in another form, it would just strengthen my belief that the potential in the entire world, God's potential, the potential for creating wherever He so desires, will happen. And again, like He willed that this will happen on earth, why should it be the only place in the world where life should sort of like evolve? I would never be surprised if we found alien life outside there, because it will just reflect my being, my understanding that where there's God's potential, there's the potential for everything. We should revere all life forms, not only human life, but every form of material existence should be revered, because the life and creative potential of God pervades and permeates through all of them.
However, Maulana Yusuf Abed says Islam would have a problem when belief in the existence of UFOs and aliens would imply that God does not exist.
Just what we disagree with scientists is when scientists try very hard to deny His existence, the Almighty's existence. So yes, there is a reference and there is a link to science, so Islam won't have a problem discounting the possibility of life out there.
And in Judaism, the reality of extraterrestrial life is also not discounted.
As far as we're concerned, in the Jewish understanding of the scriptures, there is a difference between alien life inside the physical universe and alien life beyond the physical universe. So an angel would possibly be considered an alien, but would not be from another planet, would be from another reality, another dimension. That does not exclude the possibility of life on other planets, other types of physical, intelligent life. It's possible. That could very well exist.
And for Barbara, who's had a personal encounter with a UFO, the experience itself was not threatening at all.
I haven't met anyone that has actually seen a UFO that isn't positively altered. And it's almost like you see it and you remember, I'm a part of that. That's home. in spite of the fact that I talk about this experience and people think I'm crazy, I have to keep talking about it because I know what I saw.
That there are many inexplicable sightings of strange flying objects is certain. There are just too many to ignore. And there have been countless descriptions of similar events in cultures throughout history. The problem is how to make sense of it, also on a religious level. At the moment, the evidence is too ambiguous to enable one to really take a stance. Perhaps one day, with advances in our own technology and understanding of the universe and our own reality, we could also shed more light on what so many people report, and if there's more behind it than meets the eye. But one thing is certain. Our quest to understand humankind's place in the vastness of the universe, how to deal with the possibility of extraterrestrial life, and what that would mean for people of faith has only just begun.